So, this is Actors Notes. This is a solo podcast where I just reflect on what I'm learning in real time through acting and improv training and taking classes and just the process of becoming better in life and in this craft. Now, I want to start off one thing for certain. It's that none of this is very polished lessons. This isn't advice from someone who's figured it all out in the acting industry and is a professional working actor. I have booked a handful of commercials as a model as well, here based in the Midwest, and I've booked my first feature film just a few months ago in March, and I'm hugely proud of it. And I do have on-set experience, and like I said, these are just notes that I'm noticing while I'm still in the middle of work, like actual notes, either in acting class or improv training, not really on set, even though that is curious to do. I'll just write down things that I either notice or I feel like I should remember people's names. Sometimes I'll go to my iPhone and I'll type in notes on my iPhone app of everyone I met, from the wardrobe stylist to the not the casting director, the assistant director, even to anyone. Even the people who brought in Crafty. Because you'll always find me by the Crafty table. The Crafty table, when you get on set, that is the table full of all the delicious snacks and goodies, and then they actually bring lunch or food, um, depending on the type of project. Now, that just goes back to today. I want to talk about my experience being on set for the first time and just what I expected going into it, what it actually felt like, and the differences and similarities that stood out to me once I was in that environment. Now, you may be watching this and you've already had some on set experience, but every single set, every project, whether it's I haven't dabbled into theater, but even theater rehearsals, TV and film, short films, student films, all projects are different. So everyone's on-set experience is different, but there are some key professional takeaways that will always stay the same. Just being a professional actor, what does that mean? Now, I do also want to point out before we get started, this is a little bit more laid back on terms of actors' notes. This is just me going over my notes. I have a podcast mic here, but truthfully, I've been using these DJI mic minis, and they have been doing justice so far. So, a lot of the setup for actors' notes is different. My lighting equipment is better, but I'm just trying to brag now, just because I do really appreciate you guys listening to Actors Notes, and yeah, just so we can grow with each other. Now, I want to talk about not the first ever experience I had on set and the feelings leading up to it, but I wanted to talk about a TV series that I was a featured background in. Now, a lot of coaches, actors, whoever it is, they say, don't really, I mean, background work is background work. It's not really much. But like I said, it's featured background work. Now, what does that mean in my situation? Now, a part of this TV series, we did, I don't know, we did like 5 or maybe 4 seasons. All I know is that we filmed for 2 weeks. So this is the longest I've ever been on set. I've never experienced anything like this. So when I got the audition for it, it was just as, say, a model. Now, I can say the name because I bet it's probably already released, as well as the other series. It's called Hot Court. Now, you can watch it free on Tubi. Bobby Rice and Daniel Robbins, they are the directors, the producers of Hot Court, Hot House, and Hot Kitchen. Now, I was a featured background on Hot Court, and there were about maybe 24. It felt less than that, but I feel like it was probably 24 featured background. In Hot Court, think about it. You're in the name kind of gives it away. You're in court, and the feature background is the people in the stands. Either the actual court, but it's called hot because they're hot. The all the background, feature background, all 24 of us were actual hired models, and we would be watching the plaintiff and the defendant and the judge. We watched them have this funny bit or funny skit, whatever they were filming that day. Now, we filmed 2 episodes each day for 2 weeks. I did that once, and then they actually were going to continue doing Hot Court, so I did that for another 2 weeks. So 4 weeks in total, 2 episodes each. It was 24 models for the first 2 weeks, and then it was some of us some different, some of the same from the beginning for the next 2 weeks. I really wanted to talk about my on-set experience here because this taught me a lot about professionalism. It taught me about the routine that everyone goes through behind the crew, talking to the director, talking to the um, I don't know. There were so many people. There are so many titles when it goes to people on set. Just finding an AD, an assistant director, or I think it's not a PA, not a personal assistant. You'll find someone to ask questions, and everyone has a job. Everyone has a title. But your job on set, whether you have speaking lines as an actor, or sometimes even as models, depending on the type of work you do, will have a line or two. But showing up, and this is key takeaway: show up on time. Be prepared. Show up on time and be prepared. I would say know your lines if you had your lines. Be prepared falls into that. But, I wanted to talk about what I expected going into it when I first got the audition. And then I found out that I booked it and it said for 2 weeks. So I was like, oh my God, 2 weeks? I believe it was for Gosh, it was such a while ago, but it was so much fun. I just remember, I think we did 12-hour days. I remember 7 a.m. call time, 7 p.m. we finished. Sometimes we finish at 5, but I just remember showing up on set and like this is like depending on the project you do, regardless of what it is, you get to go to work. You get to Especially in my case, I didn't have any lines. I had to show up with wardrobe. So I guess that's something that I can begin with. And I felt a lot of pressure to bring the right clothes because when you get an audition and then you book it, and then you'll definitely get an email from your agent, from your manager, or if you self-submitted, you'll still get an email from the producers, from the company. Um, Talking about wardrobe and what to bring, the location, your call time. Call time, essentially, and I think I have a pamphlet. I don't know. I have a whole bunch of scripts and stuff that I got to go through here. But you'll get a call time, and that just means when you have to be there at the location on set. Sometimes they'll be very specific, like you have to go around the corner or you have to do this and that. But they're very specific. You'll get all the instructions you need in that email along with your wardrobe. So wardrobe, sometimes you get a mood board or kind of like a storyboard. The storyboard might be a little different. That's more action. But mood board is essentially like a Pinterest pictures where they're like, ooh, just wear, do you have anything black and athletic, or do you have like a flannel, a checker flannel, or jeans that are ripped? Sometimes they're specific, sometimes they're broad, but they'll send you like a mood board or an idea of what to bring from your own personal wardrobe. That doesn't mean you have to bring, if you don't have what they asked for, then all else has failed. Just bring what you can. Now, one of the biggest things I also learned before showing up on set, I would just bring it on like the actual hanger. I'd pull it out of my closet, just bring it with me. And then I realized on set, after so many times, I would notice people have like this bag. I forgot what the name was. It's not a body bag. I mistake that one time. I asked a wardrobe stylist one time, if do you have a body bag for my clothes? They're like, what did you just call it? It's a certain name. I can't remember right now. But it's just to protect your clothes. That was a great investment. Went to Target. They had a whole bunch over there. And so that really helped. Another one too, depending on how much wardrobe you have to bring, a small suitcase. Now it's weird to think showing up on set with a suitcase makes you stand out, but it makes you look very professional because that's one of the things. I mean, it shows that you actually take care of your wardrobe. You this is something that is I've been seeing so many times on set. So it just shows that you're professional. So not just the bag for your clothes, but if you could put that in a small to medium sized suitcase to show up on set, it just shows you're very organized. Sometimes I bring a duffel bag for my shoes or anything else that didn't fit in there as well. And I know wardrobe stylists like options. And what I mean by options is that the more you can bring, if you can bring your entire wardrobe, bring your entire wardrobe. I've done that so many times for headshots, for showing up on set, and at more than 90% of the time, they don't use almost all of it. They look at what I'm wearing that day and they said, just wear that. What you're wearing is good. I can't tell you how many times this happened. I've shown up in jeans, this exact black shirt or like a long sleeve black athletic shirt, boots, brown boots, and a black belt. That's it. And they're like, oh, dude, this is a great outfit. Wear that. I'm like, dude, thank you. I don't have to, because like taking out your clothes and putting them on a table, especially with all the camera crew and other actors or whoever you are is going around, you don't know where you are. Sometimes you're in a weird location in terms of just like where everything is placed and you got to place your clothes. Sometimes it's a hassle, but it's what you got to do. And if they say just wear what you're wearing, which might happen if you show up on set, it'll be like, I like what you got on. Now, the big thing with wardrobe before I actually get into what's going on set and my experience with it is logos. My whole wardrobe, I've gotten rid of so many logos, and if you notice this on so many different emails that you'll get with your call time, with all the information that you need, no logos. That's just for, I mean, TV and film. You don't see a lot of TV shows and all that having logos sponsoring Adidas or Nike. I mean, sometimes you'll see an Apple, thing, but those are iconic. The less better, just for what do you call it? Copyright? Is it copyright? IP problems? I don't know, something like that. And so, yeah, no logos. Do your best. I shop at Abercrombie and Fitch, H&M, Old Navy. Those are my three go-tos. Abercrombie's really up there with no logos. And it's good quality too. Now, let's talk about the meat and potatoes of what's actually going on. Showing up on set. Even though, yeah, like I said, I was feature background, I had no lines, but I was able to experience two episodes, meaning there was two different actors. Sometimes it was a group as the plaintiff and defendant, if you think about it in the court terms, and then the judge. Even the judge was an actor. He was like the main actor, an amazing actor, and everyone had their lines, and it was this banter. And I would notice things that I was like, oh, I didn't realize that's how you make a TV series. Now, like I said, every project is different, but in my case, say we were filming one episode, right? We would have our wardrobe as the hot court. The wardrobe stylist would go to each of us each morning, pick out an outfit, and then another outfit for the second episode. We'll be shooting that later that day, and then they would be setting up the set. It was the same set we used. Nothing changed about the set. It was just the camera angles that changed. Um, some we noticed, some we didn't notice because we didn't have to. And I'll get to that here in a second. But we would change into our outfits. They would call us to set. We would get into those pews, those aisles. And before all this happened, by the way, the two actors, or if it was the plaintiff and the defendant could be groups of people, um, they would arrive as well. They would get dressed up. They would actually go rehearse. I forgot to say this. This makes total sense. They would rehearse on set before they actually put the background there so they get a feel for the scene, what's going on. I'll tell you this. Even though that we weren't allowed back there, I mean, I've experienced, like I said, I did my first feature film. Yay, Gio. Back in March, and I experienced, all right, what the rehearsal process was, and it's more of just finding the rhythm. It's about collaborating because the two actors in this situation, they never met. They showed up at the same time. They probably just met for that very first day, even though they have this scene that could be very intimate with the words, or they could have a relationship. This all goes to acting. This all goes to your character breakdown, your script work. You don't have to know this person to have a great scene with them, but you do have to be collaborative. So when you go to rehearsal, you just work. It just lets you kind of just work it out. You see what this scene is about. You see how your partner might give you a line that when you were rehearsing by yourself, when you had no one to do it with, or you're fortunate to do it with someone else. I mean, it's still a different person, so they might deliver a line to you that you didn't think, like, oh, why'd they ask that like a question, or why'd they say that with such sincerity, or why are they just being a dick with this? I thought they were supposed to be nice in this scene. It's their actor's choice to make this character come alive. However, they, of course, stay true to the work and prep as best you can. But when you're on set, you just don't know. And here's another big thing, too. Actually, I'm going to hold off until we get to set. I'm going to still talk about rehearsal. They would rehearse, the judge, the plaintiff, the defendant, the director. They would all go through this flow, trying to figure out the scene. It was very comedic. So a lot of improv was taken in place. That I took improv class at the Second City in Chicago, and I was very proud of that. I vlogged the entire trip. If you want to know more about that, actually, this is Actors Notes. This is a totally new YouTube channel. Or if you're listening on Spotify, this is a new podcast, so I'll have to figure out how to get you guys my improv journey. But I essentially vlogged my improv journey. But going back to what I'm saying, after rehearsal, which doesn't take too long, they would call now the feature background. We would show up on set, get in our pews, get situated. Excuse me. And one of the things I would notice is that when they started the scene, they would mess up. Of course, nothing ever goes perfectly, but I didn't realize that they would be doing take after take after take after take, and doing it different variations because the director, even if they called action, the director, and every director is different as well as with the project, they would give them a different direction. They would say, actually, can you say that more like a question? Or we're trying to be more funny here. Can you give me different variations? That was another one. They said, ask that question and give different options. So we have multiple for when we edit this, post production. So they would ask a question, something like, "What did I notice?" That would be the question the actor would say, and they would say, "What did I notice?" Or what did I notice? They would say they would say it in that sequence, which seemed odd in real time. As you watched it, you said this person said the same line three different ways. It was really funny, actually. A lot of it, the feature background, we're really good friends. We all follow each other on social media. We joke about how funny it was and how hard it was not to laugh. But going back to the direction, this is another key point that I want to make sure you guys understand when you show up on set as an actor. If you do have working lines or something you might experience, that no scene will ever be the same. Sometimes. Sometimes. Okay, I want to say that loosely because there are some actors, in my case, I did do this for the feature film, and I am going to learn from this lesson that there are some actors who will say the exact same line the exact same way. They might even say the whole scene the exact same way. Even two actors might do it the exact same way, take after take. And a take is essentially say action, then cut. They might do it again because, I don't know, they have to get different camera coverage, which I'll get to here in a second, um, or the director might give them more information, might give them a different direction. Some actors may still deliver the same performance they just did the take before, or they might do something different. Now, it's the actor's job to be very adaptable. That's another key point. Your ability to adapt, because the director will give you a curve, might give you a curveball, might give you new lines. That's another huge one as well when we were filming this TV comedic series, which was that these two actors had a set in stone script. Sometimes they would get revisions before going to on set, before getting to set, and say, actually, this joke didn't, we don't like this joke, we scratch it out, here's a different joke. Sometimes the day before, sometimes the week before, it all varies. But it'll still happen even when you are filming. You got your makeup, you're in your wardrobe in real time. The director will say, actually, scratch that entire joke out. That could be, a thick chunk of dialogue and be like, say this instead. And they would say a your mama joke talking about their red dress, and it's summertime, and I don't know, improv the rest, but talk about their red dress. We really want to hit that note. That's a direction that's a director can give you. And you're like, sure. And sometimes they would just mess up that direction, but they would just keep doing it until they got it right. So your ability to adapt is very important. Now, I don't want to scare you with that, but that's the whole point as an actor to discover in your ability to work with another actor, with another group, and see what they give you. And don't get so fixated on the lines. That's one thing that not just for this feature background role, but for just so many projects where I was trying too hard to control and overthought a lot about the lines. I got to say these lines. There's a comma here. I got to make sure that when I'm saying it, it almost sounds like, you knew there was a comma in my dialogue. Or, people stay so strict to the script, which is good, but it's supposed to give you, your context of the scene. What's it about? Be prepared as best you can. So when you know these lines as if they were your own words, you're able to almost be free and play with your scene partner, because they'll give you something that you probably didn't anticipate. It takes two to tango. And if your person doesn't know how to tango, you got to work with them, see how that goes. Or you might get the best tango player ever, dancer ever. And you're like, oh, shoot, I got to up my game. I got to try something different. I got to step up. I got to be faster. So it's all about adaptation. Now, I think listening is one of the biggest things that mattered. Listening, being present, and just taking direction. I don't want to give you too much, but I think those three things I noticed every time we had a new character or characters as the plaintiff and defendant. The best ones we saw where they didn't really mess up, but that doesn't mean it's the best acting per se. It just meant that they were so fluid with each other because they were actually listening to each other. They were present in that moment, and when they would take direction, they would listen, they would be present, and do the best work they can. And that's what exactly you're going to do. That's what I did. Just do the best work you can. Listen, be present, and take direction and your ability to adapt. Same things with taking direction. Now, I know I'm a bit all over the place, but here's what I would do differently, um, coming from all the commercials, like the feature background role, the feature film that I did, from when I first started, especially when it comes to simplicity, because I will still overthink a lot, but I think less is more. So the more simple you can make things, the better. What do I mean by that? I mean, like I said, with, say, the script, prepping. I remember for my feature film, and I really want to get into the meat and potatoes of this, and this was like the biggest realization for me, was that my scene was only like 6 lines, but I wanted to make sure I got these lines. I remember 3 days in, I would say it right when I woke up, right when I went to bed. I would say it during a run. As I worked out in the gym, I would say my lines. It looked ridiculous, but who cares? I was in a movie. So I'd say my lines. I would know those lines so much, and I think Ian Sir Ian, I forgot, but he was Magneto in X-Men. I forgot, but I don't remember. But he said, know these lines to where you can say them backwards. As in, you have your script from beginning to end. Can you say your lines end to beginning? I would do that, and I would nail it, and I would know my lines. And here's the realization. I would stay so fixated on the lines that when I showed up on set and we would go through rehearsal, I would deliver it exactly as the text said, but I wasn't listening. I wasn't present because I was so fixated on getting these lines right that I wasn't able to adapt. Not just to the director, and I did my best to the director, but adapt to the other actors, to the other actresses. Now, this is very Meisner. Sanford Meisner talks about reaction. He talks about how he knows actors get in their head and overthink, and you might be in this position as an actor when you go over your scenes, and maybe you have an entire page, 2, 3, 5 pages of dialogue. Maybe it's an entire movie. Maybe you're the lead. That's crazy if you're the lead and this is your first movie. Congratulations, but that's amazing. That's crazy. But Sanford Meisner talks about reaction. He knew actors got in their head. So instead of just focusing so much about the internal work, all the prep work, focus on the other person. What do they give you? How do they deliver a line? It's your job, yes, to know these lines. If you can say them front to back, backwards to forwards, and I knew my lines 3 days in. I was just getting in my own way because I didn't want to mess up. And you might be in the same situation. And Sanford Meisner knew that. And he said, just react. Just react to them. How do they feel about what you just said? How do they think? What do you think they're thinking about right now? Just like that. You're like, what is he thinking about right now? That's better acting when you're actually listening to them and reacting to them. And that was something I just didn't do for my feature film. I was so fixated on these damn words that it took me out of the moment. I remember I had this self-awareness, self-realization moment in real time as we were filming. I was like, I'm in my head so much. I gotta listen to this dude. I gotta listen to these two girls while we're in our scene. And in that real time, I was trying to adapt the best I could. And I did my best work. I remember talking to the director. I was like, I messed up my lines a lot. And he was like, dude, don't worry. You did great. That might just be the best thing you could ever hear. Um, so yeah, that just made me realize what should you take away from this? What's the key takeaway? If it wasn't for the first three things I said, whether you're um, say a model, a commercial, a lifestyle shoot, or you're an actor, you're doing scenes, TV series, feature film, what it may be. It's so cliche, but it matters so much. And I'm here to remind you that it's the listening. I hope you were listening as I said that because I was waiting to see. Sometimes when there's a pause, you kind of be like, oh, I wasn't listening. But if you were listening, you know you were listening. Listening, being present. So, so easy to think about what's my next line to say after this. If you're thinking that in your head, you're not present. I did that so many times on my feature film. I did that so many times during multiple. I did a short film that I was a lead in. I was thinking about my next line. Like I say this, you say that, then I say this. No, what? No, that's the whole point of the Sanford Meisner. I'm gonna take a. I'm gonna be upfront too. I've never taken a class. I've just read his books. Where's his book? It's downstairs. Um, but he just talks about the reacting, the listening. If you're thinking about your next line, you're not thinking about how they're saying something that will affect how you say your next line. That's what it means to be prepared. Prepared just means you know the lines. But when you're on set, it's a whole new world you're experiencing because the director will give you maybe even new lines that you have to improv. You have to stay true to the character, know the character, have your character breakdown, whatever that technique is for you, and then just play with the other actors. Be present with them. So, yeah, listening, presence, what you say, listening to them, how that might affect what you feel. And then, like I said, be prepared. And of course, the beginning three I said, show up on time, be professional. This is still a job, right? You still show up on time. You're still kind to your castmates, to the director, to everyone, and be a good teammate. That's the whole point of collaborating. Because yeah, you could be an amazing actor, but if you're a dick, nobody wants to work with you. You're difficult to work with. That just makes the days longer. I've had the most fun, whether that's acting or content creation when I'm collaborating or any job I've had in the past. It was more fun when you had someone that would work with you. That's the whole point of improv as well, the whole yes and them agreeing with what you said and adding on top of it. That's what I loved about improv so much. And I definitely highly recommend taking an improv class. So I think that's where I would leave you. Listen, be present, be prepared. Now, where I am with all of this, I'm still learning. Like, you could be like, gee, I knew that, or dang, that was really insightful. Regardless, I'm over here thinking, I gotta practice that more. I know I gotta listen, but I gotta practice what I preach, and you gotta continue to, how do you call it, exercise, get those reps in. Um, Otherwise, it's an active thing. You have to actively listen, do it every single day. You have to actively be present. This goes beyond acting. This goes in your everyday life. You can still practice acting in your life by listening, active being present, active showing up, being prepared. If you have to be somewhere, show up on time. If you have to be a certain role to someone else, whether it's a father, whether it's a friend, you can practice acting in that sense. Now, like I said, these are just notes. Okay, this is not answers. These are just things that I'm noticing while I'm still in the middle of figuring it all out. And I think that's the point here. Actor's notes isn't about having it all figured out. It's about paying attention while you're becoming on your journey. Now, if you got something from if you got something from this, I appreciate you being here. And in case no one has told you yet today, I love you. I do love you. You matter. You do matter, and you have value. Aww. And let me say something I've never said before. The version of you that you're trying to become isn't built in the big moments. It's built in the small moments, where you just choose to stay present instead of overthinking. And I'll see you in the next one. I love you.